My name is Gabriela Hernández and this video is for Pasantías Pre-Profesionales y Vinculación con la Comunidad 2 de la UTPL, lesson number 2 in my journal for the second bimester. The topic of this class is applying of gerunds and infinitives. This topic, gerunds and infinitives, we learned in the last lesson, and now we are going to apply them in many topics, maybe in description of places, personal descriptions, and also likes and dislikes. So we are going to gather many topics for applying the gerunds and infinitives. The class starts with students watching on the board a short paragraph that is taken from a personal journal. The teacher had to prepare this in advance. Maybe she can write the paragraph in a poster, or we can have a digital presentation with the paragraph. Anyway, this part students are going to participate. They are going to read one sentence of the paragraph. Each student is going to read one sentence. Maybe not all are going to participate, but we have many participations in this part. After students read the whole paragraph, the teacher is going to reread the paragraph on her own for students to improve their listening skills. And in this way, they are going to read twice the paragraph. This is important for understanding the topic, and maybe sometimes we lost some idea, and if students can listen to the listening parts 1, 2, or 3 times, maybe is necessary, and the teacher has to do it. Well, the paragraph is about a personal journal. This personal journal shows us how a person that was walking on the mall and looking at stores, maybe trying to buy something, this person discovered some facts about himself that he or she didn't know. Then in this paragraph we have many gerunds and many infinitives in sentences, and from this part we are going to introduce into the topic that is applying the gerunds and infinitives. After this reading, the students are going to be asked for some things that they enjoy or some things that they dislike. And as students participate, the teacher is going to correct the pronunciation and trying to introduce them into the topic. Maybe she can give the first sample. For example, I enjoy eating tacos. Maybe it's an example, and here we are using the gerund. Or running is tired for me, and here we are going again to use the gerund, but as a subject. Then students are going to, in the samples, can get what is the idea of the participations, and in this part we're going to get as many as participation as we can, because it is important that the students participate in the parts of the lesson that they have to express their ideas, because in this way they can produce language and they can realize of their own lacks, and also the teacher can assess what's happening to the knowledge, and if the knowledge is really getting by the students. Well, after all this participation, that is kind of a whole class conversation, the teacher will show students a chart with 3 lists of verbs. Of course, there are not all the verbs that we need, but it is a complete list for the most used verbs. Then in this list is about verbs that are divided in 3: verbs that are followed by gerunds, verbs that are followed by infinitives, and verbs that are followed by infinitives and gerunds. And the teacher then has to explain this part. telling students that there are verbs that express actions that necessarily go followed by gerunds, another by infinitives, another by the both. And there are some special cases in what if the verb is followed by gerund or infinitive, the meaning change, and the teacher has to explain. This part is going to be maybe a little long, but it is necessary for understanding the topic and how to use and apply the gerunds and infinitives in sentences for describe situations, people, or themselves. This is the main part of this lesson. After that, students are going to read. After the explanation, students are going to read the verbs in order to improve pronunciation. The teacher is going to drill the verbs. Well, after we read the verbs and we have the explanation of the verbs, we're having now the teacher are going to deliver to students a worksheet with many samples. In this sample we will read how to use the verbs in the previous list. So then students have to carefully read and analyze and compare the sentences and the verbs we have in the sentences to the list. And also they have to analyze the structure of the sentences. This part is going to be together the teacher, and the teacher have to read the samples together students and tell them how to compare them to the list, how to analyze how to see the structure, and then they have to do it in silence, but they also can ask questions to the teacher if they have any. And then we have students using the worksheet to underline the gerunds and the infinitives. And then for the next activity, the teachers will need the help of volunteers. This is funny and easy. The teacher will choose any student to tell her any verb in the list, and then she's going to choose another student that is going to tell her another verb or another action or something, and then the teacher is going to use the two words that she gets from the students to formulate the sentence. So maybe the first student chooses the verb avoid, and another student tell the word ice cream, and the teacher then is going to write on the board, maybe Anna avoids eating ice cream. And this is how the students are going to continue participating, telling two words and the student from the list and another word, and the teacher has to write a sentence using those words to show students that the topic is easy. We can look for a verb in the list and choose if it is followed by a gerund or an infinitive and write sentences. And this is not difficult to understand. For the next, in this part in the samples, they can participate maybe I don't know, till 10 students. We don't have to make it too long. And in the next part, the students are going to write their own sentences, and for the assessment part they are going to read the sentences, and the teacher has to choose students that didn't participate before to the following activities. As there are many samples on the board, students have the topic really clear, and as homework, students are going to write 4 sentences that describe a relative, maybe asking the relative about needs, likes, dislikes, allergy. I know many topics that they can ask a relative in order to write 4 sentences describing the relative and using the verbs in the chart. And that's all for this lesson.